I really need a haircut today, man. Can you fit me in? Whoa, sorry.
How's it going, John? Nice to virtually meet you, man.
Yes, how you feeling, man?
Man, not too bad. This is kind of like a full circle moment for me, actually, because I actually saw you about 10 or 11 years ago at Ronnie Scott's playing with Winter Marsalis. And man, and literally like at that time, I just finished school and I was like fresh faced, maybe 17 or stuff. And I got into jazz quite late. In comparison to my peers and stuff. And literally that's like the first time I saw someone like, young, black in their early 20s, like play the piano like that in person. And yeah, this is like a 10, 11 year late thank you just to say that was a really inspiring gig, man. Like, yeah.
Oh man, thank you so much. That's great to hear. I love that time. I've been so inspired by the musicians on the scene. I'm sure you know many of them, and had befriended many of them around that time. Still, we're still great friends. I'm thinking about like Reuben James and
Yeah,
Michael
yeah,
Winslow, and
yeah.
just like they're family to me. So that's great to hear that. It's so great to see you.
Is this heaven?
No, it's the great before. This is where new souls get their personalities, quirks, and interests before they go to Earth.
The movie's amazing. Congratulations. And yeah, really enjoyed it. And yeah, so I just wanted to like touch on your journey so far, like leading up to Soul. We'll get to the movie in a little bit. So you're from Louisiana, New Orleans, very musical city. Like how did it all start for you?
I was really fortunate, as I have said in the past, and I will always give the props to first the city and the culture, the black culture, and my family, because I was just born into. My father is my first musical mentor, and he has, there's 7 brothers in the family on his side, and they had a family band, and they toured the Chitlin circuit, in the 60s and the 70s with you talk about Jackie Wilson, King Floyd,
Yeah.
like these people, Wilson Pickett, Isaac Hayes, they're playing with all these people in the culture. And you got my other mentor in jazz, Alvin Batiste, the clarinetist, avant-garde music, modern jazz, in a time in New Orleans where that wasn't even a thing. Him and Ellis Marsalis had the American Jazz Band, and they were playing. You know, this is really such an amazing lineage to have been born into and be fortunate enough to just absorb it before I realized that that's what I was absorbing.
Yeah.
And then I moved to New York. It really made me realize it in a perspective that I wasn't expecting. My role in New York and in the world at large. It's like, oh, I have all of this that I was bestowed from my ancestors without me having anything to do with it. And now I'm in this place where I can forward my studies and forward my experiences so I can get all of this other information and all of these other inspirations, and I can share it with people on this journey. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. It almost is like I don't have a choice in the matter.
Music is all I think about. From the moment I wake up in the morning to the moment I fall asleep at night, I was born to play.
You've toured and played with some of the biggest names in jazz, from Wynton Marsalis to Roy Hargrove, and even in popular music from Prince, Stevie Wonder, like all these different names, Lenny Kravitz. And then around 2014, you get the call to do The Late Show. So, which is like a big responsibility and such a massive shift for such a busy touring musician. Like, tell us through that process of making that concrete decision.
Well, if I think about those first 5 years as a period of transmutation and growth, I think about this last 5 years in that same way, in a different phase of life. I was in this place where we had been touring, and around 2011, 2012, I really started to focus on Stay Human and mainly touring with my own band after really
Yeah.
having from '04 to 2011 this rich experience of touring with so many of my mentors and learning from them and being in New York while also still building my band and working as a composer and arranger. But I finally decided to really focus on that. And fast forward after us touring for some years in different places across the world, I get this call to be on the Colbert Report, which is Stephen Colbert's old show, which was on a
Okay.
network called Comedy Central, where he plays a character. And it was a really, really amazing satire show. And he's interviewing me in character, and there's a chemistry there. And we perform on that show. I think the clip is somewhere still online where we do a whole march, and the audience is outside, and there's this real beautiful, joyous energy. And I come to find out he's going to do the Late Show. And this is a huge responsibility for somebody that's 25, 26 years old to kind of be a musical director for a network television show and also
Mm,
be um, a voice on stage and to be a character in the show.
yeah.
It I never was looking for that. Like that was not on my radar. I didn't want to do it. It wasn't something that I was thinking of doing.
Mm,
Um, and it felt like a real crossroads. And at the time, there were also these major record deals on the table from all
ooh,
of these big record companies. And, we had built this
mm,
thing for so long and I learned so much and I developed this voice as an artist and as a band leader. And
yeah.
and I never signed, I was always independent and I never signed a record deal and I never done that thing. So it felt like a crossroads, TV or music. And of course, there's music still involved, but this is a television show, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
in the most classical sense. Um, and I had a long conversation with my family and prayed about it. And people, before they knew that this was even an option for me, after seeing us perform on his old show, The Colbert Report, were calling me. I mean, 30 people, something like 30 people
Wow.
called, texted, emailed. I saw you on Colbert. He's taking over for David Letterman. You and him really should do that show together.
Hey, look, I already know everything about Earth, and I don't want anything to do with it.
You're missing out on the joys of life, like pizza. I can't smell. We can't taste either.
All that stuff is in your body.
I really loved the movie, man, and I was really blown away by how philosophical it is. It touches on a lot of subjects that, especially in the musicians community, in the jazz community, that needs to be addressed and talked about openly. And what I really liked about it, especially, is the way that your jazz compositions and the interaction with all the scenes, the improvisational parts, it really helped tell the story. So tell us about the process of it all and how it all came together. And
Wow, this is amazing to watch them work. They have such an amazing process of they have a wall. In fact, I remember seeing a wall where they had every aspect of the story and the progress that it was at, narrative, animation, script, scenes, all the different places in the story, and the way that they come together. Everybody in the building focusing on the thing, and the world of the thing is what takes over the space. Um, and I was really called in, be a cultural consultant and be the hands of Joe. And over time, the role evolved, and it really became something that I was able to infuse a lot of myself and my life into.
yeah.
And it really aligns with so much of who I am. I'm so
Mm.
proud to be a part of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, because the lead character Joe, he obviously living in New York and obviously completely different life path to you. But in what ways do you feel like you resonate with the character, with Joe?
Well, I love that he's a teacher. I love to teach. I love that he is someone who is never giving up the hope and optimism that he's going to make it based on what
Yeah.
he feels like he's considers making it.
Yes! Woohoo! You know what that's gonna say? Joe Gardner. I did it. I got the gig.
And I really do believe that is a big factor to my whatever success I've had is not based on me. It's based on me believing that there's a higher calling and something bigger than all of us that's pulling us toward the thing that we're supposed to be doing. And if we can listen to it and check in with it, that's success.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I love about Joe. That's the thing that really resonates with me the most.
That's one of the main things with me that really stuck out to me during the film, because I feel like during this time, especially with COVID and everything, musicians have really had that time to really sit and reason with why we're doing this in the first place and having to fight for it for survival. And I feel like this film is dropping at the right time to really help a lot of musicians in that state of mind to realign their values. Because in actuality, jazz is supposed to transcend all of these beautiful things in life. And I think sometimes that message gets lost along the way. You know, what's your take on that, and how important was it for you to really convey that message throughout the movie?
Well, jazz is very important for me. Jazz is too small of a name to encapsulate what this cultural and sociocultural and artistic phenomenon is. Think about the 1940s and Lindy Hop and people who are generations removed, 1 or 2 generations removed from sharecroppers and the first free blacks. And those people are 1 generation removed from people who were enslaved. And you have Jim Crow, and you have all these different things that are going on. But you also have this people of all races and all backgrounds, culturally speaking, intermingling and creating together for the first time. And you have all of this stuff that's happening in a few places, and there's not the internet, there's not such a fast transfer of information, so it's able to build on itself and compound upon itself in these different pockets: Chicago, New Orleans, New York, different parts of the world, even in Havana, in Jamaica, and Kingston, in all these different parts, Bahia. There's different people. Every culture is just building on itself. And then when these ambassadors come out, Louis Armstrong comes out of New Orleans, you know, Count Basie, you got Duke Ellington coming out of DC, got all these people who are just coming and bringing it together and connecting it and building on it. And dance is connected to it. Food is connected to it.
Yeah.
All of these different social experiences are connected to it. All these different ways of coming together. And we call that jazz. That's too small. A lot of times jazz music isn't presented in its full power.
Yeah.
And Black cultural music isn't presented in the full power of what it actually is. And I think a lot of us have forgotten actually what it is and what it really means. It's so divine. It's for it to exist with so much against it, and for people to come through it and to not believe the lies, for people of all races and all ages in those times and in times even into today to come together based on that and those customs and that music and that sound against the odds of whatever the narrative was that was being pushed forward. When you really tap into that, it's gonna be here forever. That's the stuff that will be here forever. You can't do nothing with it.
Yeah, so much history, that ancient African and Caribbean traditions just still pushing through, you know?
Yeah, that's right. It's all in there.
Yeah. Also, from coming through musicians such as Wynton Marsalis and even Roy Hargrove, and one thing that I've really admired about musicians like Wynton is that he's really been adamant on making sure that jazz has had the intellectual credibility that it deserves. And I see it as a point where, like, why shouldn't the music of, you know, Duke Ellington and Thelonious Monk being played in the same concert halls as Mozart and Beethoven, whereas that's seen as like the pinnacle of music, and Charlie Parker's just some black magic on the saxophone. And I guess doing the music for this film comes with a lot of responsibility to really help convey that narrative and that message of giving jazz the intellectual credibility.
Yeah, Wynton has been a mentor for me in many ways. I've learned that from him, and I think that I always find that anything that taps into the soul, into the spirit of people on a deep reflective level, it automatically upholds the intellectual integrity of it, because it makes you think about your life and it makes you think about the music, and it's kind of like magic. How does this music make me feel this way on such, and why does it bring up thoughts about my grandparents, or why does it bring up thoughts about times in my life that I it has nothing to do with the music. There's no words
Yeah.
to it most of the
Yeah.
time. How does this
Yeah.
So how does this happen? You're trying to figure out how the music is doing that. And that's the beauty of jazz. It's the most abstract yet direct art form.
Yeah.
It can mean anything, but it also means something very specific at the same time. And that's the intellectual quality of the music and the greatness of the musicians in the music that I'm always aiming for. Never to dumb it down or water it down.
For real, for real. There was a very profound scene in the movie actually where after Joe does a show and then he's talking to the band leader like, yo, I thought I'd feel different. Like, I've got to this place and I thought I would have been changed. And then the band leader comes back with something really profound that really got him thinking about his life. Like, was there any advice you got from older musicians that really made you really philosophical in that way? Like when you was on the road and your mind was in one way, and then just that one word of advice from an older musician just kind of just really made you change the way you thought forever or the way you approach music?
I had a habit of really wanting to, in whatever way I can, record those conversations when I have those with musicians. Like whenever I'm on the road or when I was on the road and touring, I would always sit with whoever it was that I could. I remember having conversations with the great Ahmad Jamal and just like asking, hey, can I record this? Can we? So it's more conversations that I remember, not necessarily specific things they say, but just being around a person sometimes, it's almost like osmosis. You just learn, you absorb the essence of how they are talking about something and the way that they are. And that's your lesson. That's what changes the way you approach the thing.
Yeah. Just being around someone so experienced.
Yeah.
It's lived through specific times where, jazz was their only voice, Right. Yeah. You just are like, okay, you have a different relationship to this than I do. And I need to, I just need to, you need to lead me down that path. Yeah. Any advice to any young musicians listening, like that want to get into music or do their own thing, or what advice would you give to them?
Oh my goodness. Know your lines, what you won't do. And because that'll keep you happy and keep you balanced. Because there's all these definitions of success, but if you know the line, what a line is, then you'll always have your own kind of success if you stick to your guns and just stay within your space.
Yeah. Jon, once again, thank you so much, man. And thanks for everything you've contributed to music so far, and long may that continue. And hopefully we can meet in person at some point soon.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.